Welcome in, I'm Dirt Farmer, and this is the family farm. Actually, this is the inside of a semi-hopper, but we'll show the farm in a second. And this week, we are hoping to get a little bit of some seed in the ground. We're starting things off this week actually sitting on top of the semi here. Our little drop tube for the belt conveyor actually broke, so I'm gonna pull this thing off, and I don't know if we'll have time to fix it today or not. We're gonna get some fertilizer loaded up in the semi, but I always like to run the conveyor first to clean anything out, and I'm glad I did, because I think a raccoon used our conveyor as a toilet, so there was a little natural fertilizer in with the real fertilizer. This morning I'm loading up a bunch of urea fertilizer because we're going to take the semi, our fertilizer, and the belt conveyor down to the pivots. And then once we get down there, we are having a guy who's going to spread fertilizer on just the pivots for us because things are getting a little bit wild around here. It's been a little while, but we're back down here on the pivot ground again, and hopefully we'll have these guys fired up in a month or so. This will be one of those times where we do actually hire out some work, so we are going to have somebody else spreading this fertilizer, but just on the pivots because we do want this to be pretty accurate because it is a way higher rate than all the other fields. Another one of today's job is trying to knock the edges off of some of these washouts so it's a little bit smoother when we're taking our machinery through here, because some of these are extremely deep. This one's actually not too bad compared to some of the other ones. Kind of fixing all our trenches out in the field here. We're also picking some rocks too, so we're gonna actually see if this thing will fit in the back of the geo-tracker. Well, the little tractor is actually useful. We can even throw rocks in the back of this thing. I do have to be pretty careful about not hitting the roof. It's a little close, but it does work. Another nice morning out here in Montana, and the boss has got the 9280K swarming up. Hopefully get a little bit more disking done out here today. The disc is working pretty good on some of the smaller washouts, but some of those deep ones, it's really not doing much for those. This thing's honestly working the best for the really deep ones. However, we did have a little issue last night. We actually broke the weld off. So I'm actually trying to cut some of the old weld off right now so we can re-weld it, because I did try just kind of tacking it back together last night. But it did not hold very long. Had some issues with the welder this morning, so we just moved up to a little bit bigger setup here, and we got the disc going now. Finished up with the disc, so we're going to take this guy back to the yard and figure out what our next job's going to be. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be working on the air seeders again. And since we have so many other things going on, we are having this guy spreading the rest of this 640 acres, and actually I think he's going to be spreading the rest of the fertilizer in total here. And I'm not going to complain that someone else is doing the rest of the spreading because it's been so crazy around here the last 2 weeks. I'm so behind on all kinds of different stuff right now. So my uncle's been treating seed out here today. And how this thing actually works is we do have to have the service pickup here with the air compressor. We have it plugged in here, and he said it should do about 550 bushels. So it's not exactly calibrated 100% correctly, but what we have to do is we keep it about 25 to 30 psi here. It's leaking a little bit there. But the main part is this thing. So coming out of the tank here, as long as we're getting 15 PSI, and that's actually how much you're putting down there. So if you need to put down more, it'll be less PSI. If you want to put less, it's going to be more PSI. And then from this point, it goes into the actual applicator here, and it kind of helps mix it a little bit more uniformly than if you're just kind of dumping it in the auger itself. And then at this point, it just goes into the truck. We were waiting for the boss to get done with the service pickup because we do need the air compressor, because we're gonna have to air up some tires on the old Flexicoil here, get everything greased, and just kind of make sure this guy's ready to go. Doesn't look like there's a ton of stuff that needs fixed on the Flexicoil here. There is a couple things though. One of them here is, I think we are going to replace this hose because I can see it's already cracked out right there. And we got new hoses on everything else, so this last one's going to get replaced as well too. We'll check some of these hoses as well too, and these ones all look okay. They're pretty new. All the black ones are new. I actually replaced all these last fall. You guys might have seen that if you've been watching the channel for a while. Some of these might just need kind of adjusted or held up in different ways, because I can see that's like this one, it's kind of getting squished, so it might need held back because I think it's getting kind of stuck where it gets folded up here. Then one of the normal maintenance things we have to do, but it is a little bit different than everything else, is grease our packer wheels. But we have to have them up in the air so we can actually turn them at the same time. So while we're greasing them, we do want to be spinning these things so that way we're kind of getting grease in the entire bearing and not just on one part of it. And we do have to be extra careful with these as well, because we don't want to blow the seals out, because these bearings are really, really bad to change. I'm gonna get this guy spinning here again. It doesn't need to be going 100 miles an hour, it just kind of needs to be moving. There we go. About 5 or 6 is all I'm kind of putting in these. Alright, and then we're done with this one, so all we got to do, put our stuff away here. We let our jack back down, and then all we have to do is move to the next one and do the same thing along the whole air seeder here. Another beautiful morning out here in Montana, and I'm almost thinking maybe we're going to try a little seeding, or at least get the air seeder filled up today, because right now we're actually jump starting the truck here, and this is usually the truck that we use for fertilizer, and I'm assuming it probably is going to still be the same truck we're using for fertilizer because the other one is full of seed. But like I said, first we need to actually just get this thing started. This morning we're loading some more fertilizer, but it's different than the other fertilizer we've been dealing with. So the white stuff is urea, and then the green stuff is phosphorus. They're both fertilizers, they're just different kinds of fertilizers. So one's mainly nitrogen, and the other one is mainly phosphorus. Almost made it out of the yard, but turns out tractors need fuel, so we had to turn around quick and get this thing fueled up. Little spoiler alert here, we are going to be seeding today. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually in the Gator, and I'm just kind of cruising around some of these mud holes we have out in the field, because I would like to at least kind of know where the wet spot or the wet edge of the water hole is. That way I don't put the air seeder in the drink. And this is why I like to check. So I thought this was kind of like some of those other ones where I could just kind of go around the edge of it. However, there's still a lot of water just underneath the ground, a couple feet out here. And away we go out here, getting a little bit of some seed in the ground. It's good to get started. We got the first about 95 acres in, and now we're just actually waiting for my uncle to show up with the fertilizer truck, but I already have everything all set up and ready to go. So once he gets out here, help him get backed up, and we'll get this thing filled up with fert and hopefully actually get this field finished up. Because it's a little bit smaller field, it's a weird shape just because it is along the coulee there. Seven o'clock at night, we're doing pretty good. We've got about 70 acres on this tank load. This is the second load of the day, so not too bad for kind of a later start to the day here. We're kind of out here between two little water holes right now, so that water hole is actually huge. Other one's just a smaller little guy, but hopefully we can get this field done here tonight and then get moved way up north into the next field here before it gets too dark out. And we got to do a couple live streams in the cedar here as well today, so thank you to everyone that came out and watched those. Always a ton of fun doing the live streams from the farm here in the tractor, so it's always crazy the technology we have to even be able to do that. And if you guys are wondering how we get food out here, well, my aunt makes us some nice meals for when we're going to be out in the field late, so yeah, I'll probably be out here until 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, just kind of depends on how things go tonight. But yeah, it's always nice to have a nice warm meal for out in the tractor here, and especially tonight, man, this is absolutely delicious. And yeah, I usually say that about every single meal she makes because I'm just happy to have food, so. Well, it's about 9:36. We're just winging up and getting ready for transport mode. Get a move to the next field and then call it a night. And not too bad of a start for the first day of seeding here. It ended up being a 15-hour day last night, but still got to wake up a little bit earlier, come out here, get the steers fed before we go out seeding again too. And these guys are eating about 4 gallons of this every morning and every night. We do have to just kind of keep an eye on them though, and just kind of make sure their digestive tract is kind of handling all that feed. Just got the tractor started and we're gonna let it warm up for a second, and then we have to kick our fan on so I can actually get this thing loaded up, because we do need some more fertilizer and we do need more seed, and hopefully we get this thing loaded just in case it starts raining. By the ridge this morning, and we already seeded right next to the neighbor's pasture. This is actually the field that we were spreading, I think, last week's video on Saturday. And if you guys are wondering why we're kind of having like that 5 feet of overlap on that wing, that's just because this fence line isn't exactly straight, so we do like to hang over a little bit. That way that everything kind of gets straightened out on our field here. I always enjoy seeding out on this field just because you can see for miles. We're kind of up on top of a high point, so we can see the farm down there. We kind of go over this way. To the right of us here, I can actually see my dad's place. It's about 12 or 13 miles straight east of us. And then to the north, we got the mountains. We can just about see Canada from here too. Checking some of these blockage sensors, but what are the chances a rock bounced up on top of the frame here and kind of got stuck? That's something I've never seen before, so I'm gonna grab that off of there, but I don't know how else that rock would have got up there. Another 160 down, and we're actually gonna be heading kind of over this way to the next field. And this is why I like to check all the runs after I load the air seeder up, because this one's hose popped out of the actual boot. So it would have been just kind of throwing some seed on the ground. But all we have to do to fix this guy is take it, shove it just right back in there. I'll throw a hose clamp back on it, and luckily I do have one hose clamp with me. It's a little bit overkill, but I'll throw some more in the toolbox for tomorrow. This field has a couple spots where it was holding water for a bit, but I haven't got stuck yet, so that's good. But there has been a couple moments where it was definitely a little bit iffy. And my uncle's on the other side of the state of Montana today because he's got some personal stuff to take care of over there, and he's getting some new equipment too. So I'll be quitting a little bit earlier tonight just because I do have to make my own dinner, and because we did have some new equipment get delivered to the farm today, so I just need to kind of make sure everything's okay with it, nothing got damaged on delivery. And everybody's fighting for some dinner right now. That's nice. It's definitely a whole lot nicer out here this morning compared to yesterday when we had all that wind and cold weather. It's already like 45 degrees out here, the sun's shining, there's hardly any wind, so way better than yesterday. And every morning before we even move the tractor, there's a couple things we always like to do first. First thing we like to do, grab our grease gun here, go through and hit all our grease zerks. So some of these I hit them every other day, some of them I hit every day. There's a couple in here, just kind of the points where things turn and articulate on the tractors. After that, I like to turn the fan on the air seeder, make sure air is working and it sounds good. And then we'll come over here, we'll take this little handle, we'll crank it, and that handle is actually for our meters there. So we just put a little tiny bit of some seed fertilizer through the air seeder here. And then we come back to the actual seeder here. And since our blockage system on this thing's about 30 years old, it's having some issues, and I actually just finally unhooked it here yesterday because it was causing all kinds of problems. But I like to just manually come under here and check, make sure there's seed fertilizer coming out of each and every single run. After all that's done, we should be ready to go. I figured you guys might want to see the in-cab view of what our seeding operation looks like here. We'll run through all the important things here that I use, and we'll start here back at the GPS. So this helps us keep a straight line, and it's the only reason I can do all these videos as well, because I don't actually have to steer this thing. It's just steering itself straight, makes it super handy. And all we have to do on this thing is we just have to hit this little button when we're pretty close to this red line, and then it takes over and it does everything itself. And under the GPS, we do have all of our controls here. So this is our hydraulics here, all these little black levers. This one that's locked in the forward position is actually for our fan on the air seeder. And then this first one's actually the one I use the most. That controls the up and down of the actual hose on the air seeder itself, so it just pulls it out of the ground. Second lever here is for actually folding up the entire air seeder for road transport. And then this is another pretty important one here. This is our throttle. So just, yep, you can see they got the little turtle for slow and the little rabbit for fast. And then we kind of switch this way, and this is our transmission. So we have our range stick on the right side. You can see we got A, B, C, D. And then we have our actual gears on this left stick here. So we got first, second, third, and reverse. And here we have our handy little cheat sheet for how fast you kind of want to go. It tells you what gear and range to be in. And then we move up here. We have a bunch of gauges on the right. And then this is our controller for the actual Flexicoil air seeder here. So this is what I always like to have pulled up, is just our fan speed, because if our fan is not running or has problems, it's gonna plug up the air seeder just about instantly. So we always have to have air going through there, or else the dirt will actually push itself up into the air seeder. So that's why we have the air, because it just kind of helps push the dirt, and it helps the seeds and fertilizer actually get pushed through the entire system and make its way into the ground. The the other most important thing on this is the area button. So I have about 52 acres done on this tank load. Since our actual tank sensors don't work anymore, this is the only way I can really keep track of how much I actually have in the tank. So I get about 100 acres before I run out of fertilizer. Underneath it here, this is our master switch for the actual clutch on the machine. And the clutch is what meters out the seed. So if I switch this off, like I'm gonna have to at the end here, that just shuts the seed fertilizer off, so it's just pushing air through the air seeder and no material. And other than that, that is pretty much just about everything. And then I will have to steer it myself when I have to turn up here, and I'm gonna have to turn at about 20 feet here. Moved over to the other side of the field here, kind of right next to this little reservoir out here. This thing always usually has some water in it, but I do kind of want to start working that way because if I do need more stuff, I'll have to fill up way down over there. Finished up that 100-acre field and made a quick pit stop over here at the trucks to get loaded up again, and I think we're actually gonna stop by the house on the way to the next field down there, get some fuel, and then we'll head to the next field to get started again. Out in the gator doing a quick scout before I actually get started seeding on this field, but I can tell you right now, this one is not going to be very fun. So this has some very big draws through it where the water ran out, and yeah, it's going to be interesting in the manual tractor. Just after 10 o'clock, and we're kind of wrapping things up for the day here. We always like to let the tractor cool off for a couple minutes because it's been running all day long at a little higher temps, so it's always just good to kind of let things cool off. Starting off this beautiful Saturday morning with actually not seeding, but going to get more seed because we need about 350 more bushels. We made it to the seed plant, now we just need 350 bushels of seed. We're not actually done with that other field, but we do have some wet spots, so we're gonna maybe let them dry out for a day or two. And we're actually gonna go do another field kind of down by the coulee there because it doesn't have any wet spots in it. Well, that's not good. So we actually just got done doing a live stream on the other side of the coulee there, but I just got started on this field and done about 3 passes, and halfway down the field here, my meter suddenly just shut off. So yeah, we don't even have like any power here. There we go, I guess we got power, but it stopped spinning. I just ran a little crank test there, and we do have seed and fertilizer coming out of the air seeder. So there's nothing wrong on the actual cart out here, so I'm wondering if maybe we're having some kind of wiring issue between the air cart and all the electronics in the cab. Well, I tested it again quick, and now it's working again, so everything's working. We're gonna check our meters here, and it's rolling there on the back tank and on the front tank, so that's good. And I guess I haven't even mentioned this yet, but the main thing we're watching for on the cart here is that little handle spinning there. So as long as that handle's turning, there's gonna be wheat and seed going through the meter. When that alarm went off, I knew it wasn't actually putting any seed on the ground because that handle was not turning anymore. I'm wondering if something just kind of got stuck in the clutch, and then when I just hand cranked it, it broke out whatever piece was in there. But everything seems to be working again, so we're gonna keep cruising on along. This field's always interesting because on this side we have flat ground for miles, and then if we kind of look on this other side, we have 110-foot plus drop-offs straight down into the coulee bottom. Another 90 acres done out here on the field right next to the coulee, so we're gonna head back past the yard and up to that field we were working on earlier today. And our air seeder can do about 20 more acres, but we're probably gonna try to get it loaded up right now. That way we can go in case it starts getting dark out here.